Finally, I'd like to say a little bit about emotional literacy, which so far I haven't really covered. I'm very much of the opinion that I cannot be said to be teaching or educating, as I prefer to think of it, if participants in the learning process are not learning. That may seem an obvious point, but I think all too often it's easy for trainers, teachers, educators to stop reflecting on whether their learners are learning, and therefore whether the educator can be said to be educating. And for me, this is the core of emotional literacy. If individuals are not learning, there could be a whole variety of reasons which are the responsibility of the educator, and it's for the educator to assess those things and put right. Equally, it could be that the learner is not able to learn what is being delivered. It could be beyond the intellectual scope of the learner. It could be beyond the emotional scope of the learner. It could be beyond the cultural scope of the learner. But nevertheless, emotional literacy requires that the educator assesses and recognises that this is what's going on and addresses it accordingly. It's a complete waste of a learner's time if after an hour's training, educating, he or she has learnt nothing because the educator has not properly assessed that learner's needs. So I just wanted to make that point because I haven't made it elsewhere. In terms of emotional literacy, I've always seen it, emotional literacy, or most aspects of emotional literacy, as common sense. When learners come into one of my sessions, most of the time I'll be playing music of some kind. That could be music with which I know they'll be familiar and therefore feel comfortable. Equally, it could be music that is really outside their experience, and so there is novelty, there is diversity involved. And I'll use music at different moments throughout training courses as the atmosphere requires. I like to use the space at my disposal. So certainly where I've got opportunities to work in smaller groups, to use smaller spaces outside a principal learning space, where I've got the opportunity to work outdoors, all of those things I will take advantage of. It enriches the experience for learners. A different location, a different setting, refreshes the mind, and it, I think, enables learners to stay with the learning, to stay kind of fresh and abreast with it, so to speak. Adequate breaks, making sure that learners work with a variety of different learners, so that there's again, they benefit from the diversity of experience and the diversity of opinion. Food where possible. I don't think it's it doesn't require a great budget to provide a group with some fruit and biscuits, for example. These small things where a learner is made to feel cared for are incredibly important. I would never run a whole day's training without personally ensuring that there is an adequate lunch, or that arrangements for lunch have been thoroughly addressed. also think that a variety of media, I think I've already referred to this, but where you've got written material, you've got visual material, you've got auditory material, you use the various resources that the physical resources a room offers, the physical resources a terrain offers. I think all these things are very important.